up guys, my name is Brent Ruiz and welcome back to the channel. I have to tell you, I am super excited for the 2023 Corvette C8 Z06. And in this video, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think it's gonna happen. I'm gonna tell you guys the reasons why I think I'm gonna get rid of the AMG GTR for the C8 Z06. Let's get in and go for a drive, and I'll tell you guys all about it. So a little bit of context, on my channel, I did a review of the C8 Corvette Stingray a little bit after they had just been released. If you haven't seen it, go check it out because I had a lot of fun making that video. It was one of my first proper car reviews on the channel. But anyway, long story short, I fell in love with the car. I was thoroughly impressed with how it handled. Just the way that they built the car, it was so impressive out of the box. But you could really tell that Chevy, the way that they made it, that they were really leaving something on the table, and that's where the Z06 came into play. Now, in that same video, when I was driving it hard on a similar road to this, and while my mind was just being blown as to how well it handled, I said that back around that time, the rumor was already floating around that the Z06 variant of the C8 would have a flat plane crank V8 engine. And that had piqued my interest so much, and here we are today. It's been confirmed. It's gonna have that engine, and not only that, but we've seen and we've heard plenty of videos. If you have not yet, go check it out. I'm gonna put some right here in the video, but in a nutshell, the Z06 sounds like a Ferrari. But back around that time, the rumor was already floating around that the Z06 would have a flat plane crank V8 engine. It piqued my interest a lot because if you don't know me, I'm a huge Ferrari fan. I love that high-pitched wail of an exhaust note. I have a Ferrari 458 in the garage, and that is my favorite type of sound. A straight-piped V8 mid-engine supercar. I don't think it really gets much better than that. Okay, straight-pipe V12. That's pretty up there as well. But anyway, we're talking about V8s here. So I was so surprised that Chevy was gonna do that, and here we are today. The car has been spotted at the Nurburgring in camouflage, but we've been able to hear the true sound of that exhaust, and it sounds like a Ferrari. Actually, it sounds like what today's modern Ferraris, the ones that are just coming out, like the 296 GTP, like the F8 Tributo, like the SF90. Chevy is beating Ferrari at their own game in terms of that exhaust note, which is honestly disturbing to me. Like, how has Ferrari managed to be leapfrogged by Chevrolet? Chevy is beating Ferrari at their own game, and this is the #1 reason why I want that Z06. And while the C8 Stingray sounds great, just, you know, as a traditional American muscle car sound, the flat plane crank V8 sound just makes it sound more like a supercar. And now with the performance figures to really justify that supercar tag, the C8 Z06 will be a supercar. I did a dedicated video comparing and contrasting why or why not the C8 Stingray would be considered a supercar. Go check that video out if you have not already. But now with the Z06, there is absolutely no denying that the Z06, I can't believe it, I can't believe I'm saying it, but the Corvette will be a flat-out supercar, and it will be outperforming many of the supercars that are out there today. And on that note, let's talk about what really can justify this. Let's talk about Nurburgring time. So some people will think it's silly, but this is the way of the world right now. The Nurburgring lap times that manufacturers set for their cars, that is pretty much how you get on the leaderboard in terms of where your car is ranked in performance compared to all your other competitors. So the Z06 has just been spotted, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it before I get into the lap time comparisons and all that. If the Z06 gets a lap time, and they've already done this, I think, they just haven't obviously revealed it because they're gonna reveal the car October 26th, which I'm sure if they actually got a great lap time, they're going to publicize the hell out of that and make it like one of their leading ways to market the car. So I'm gonna say right now, if the Z06 managed to get a time of under 7 minutes on the Nurburgring, I am going to get a Corvette. I cannot believe I'm saying that. Like, I myself never saw myself as a Corvette guy, but Chevy has just completely changed the game. They started off really strong with the C8 Stingray, but now they're really competing straight up head to head versus Ferrari, versus Lamborghini, versus Porsche. And that's freaking amazing. I wish they had done this earlier, because I've just been waiting for them to do this. I would totally love to have an American-made car go up head-to-head versus these other supercar-centric manufacturers. And that really gets me excited, honestly. So I'm all for it. I'm supporting Chevrolet in their battle against these supercar manufacturers. Okay, so let's talk about Nurburgring time. So the current king of the rings, or kings, because there's two which have matched their time pretty much, it's the GT2 RS, although it was running the Manthe Racing street legal kit, so it's technically still street legal, still production car, so it's kind of wishy-washy there, but 6:43, that's what it got on the Nürburgring. But the Black Series, the new AMG Black Series, pretty much the big daddy to this car, that also achieved a 6 minutes 43 seconds lap time around that track. So that's the current benchmark of having a fast car. Now, right behind those cars, and I was super impressed when I saw this, is the Aventador SVJ, which I don't know how the heck they pulled that off, but the SVJ really impressed a lot of people with the lap time of 6 minutes, 44 seconds, just 1 second behind those cars. And then you have the stock GT2 RS, 6:47. That's more of a realistic time for that car. The Huracan Performante, also an impressive time at 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Then you have the new 992 GT3, a 6:55. Really, really impressive for just the standard GT3. Really interested to see what the 992 GT3 RS is gonna do. Then you have the 991 GT3 RS, which an incredible lap time set by the Porsche driver, 6:56. That's really crazy. And then you have a hypercar, the Porsche 918 Spider, 6:57. Going down the list here, you have the Aventador SV, 6:59. Really impressive for that big, clunky car. 488 Pista, 7 minutes flat. Then you have the GTR Pro, the facelifted version of this car, which added more aerodynamics. That has a 7 minute and 4 second time. Then you have this car, the GTR, 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, let's talk about that figure, the 7 minutes, 10 seconds mark. That was actually achieved by Jim Merrow, the person who was responsible for the suspension tailoring of the C7 Corvette. He actually drove that car, the Z06, and achieved a 7 minute, 10 second time. Now, that is not an official set time, but we'll go ahead and take his word for it. I don't know why you would not, just given his reputation, but that's pretty much the maximum capability of the C7 Z06. So taking that number into account, there's probably no way that Chevy would allow its successor, the C8 Z06, to be anywhere slower than that figure. So we can pretty much guarantee that the new Z06 is going to be faster than 7 minutes and 10 seconds. So if the Z06 is actually going to be faster than this car on the Nürburgring, can you imagine what it's going to be like on roads like this, canyon roads, which I drive on all the time? This is where I have fun when I'm not at the track. Now, I would say the AMG GTR has a ton of mechanical grip. I don't know how they did it, but AMG pulled it off in a big, relatively big and relatively heavy car like this. The way that it handles, it just makes it so easy to drive. But if I can get a car that handles even better, is even faster on a road like this or on the track, and it sounds amazing, I need that car in my life. Going back to Jim Merrow, if there's really anyone in the world that can give his best opinion on what he thinks, how fast the Z06 is going to be on the Nürburgring, it's him, because he's done it before in the C7. And he's been digesting the footage that he's seen coming out from the Nürburgring tests, and he predicts that the Z06, the C8 Z06, will be able to get a time that's 15 seconds or thereabouts faster than the C7. And given that he got a 7 minute and 10 second time with the C7 Z06, he's predicting that the C8 Z06 will be able to achieve 6 minutes and 55 seconds on the Nürburgring, which is an incredibly fast time. Not only for any supercar, you've already heard me go down the list of Nürburgring times from these other supercars, even hypercars. Are you telling me that it can potentially be faster than the Porsche 918 Spider hypercar? That's insane. Like, if they actually have managed to pull this off, I am not 99.9% gonna get one. I am going to 120% get one. And if you're asking me my opinion as to the time that it's going to be able to achieve. I think it'll definitely get under 7 minutes. Just seeing the massive presence that Chevrolet had at the Nurburgring recently. They had a bunch of cars out there doing tons of laps, and they're really kind of hyping up this October 26th reveal date, and that kind of coincides with their trip to the Nurburgring. So I think they actually did pull it off, and we haven't even talked about the starting price yet. Chevy is going head to head against these supercar manufacturers, and they're beating them at their own game for a much lower entry price. So impressive. I have massive respect for what Chevy is doing. Now, talking about the price points, so people are predicting that the Z06 is going to start at around $85,000. That's pretty fair because the Stingray started at $60,000. But when the Z06 comes out, and for a while after it's out, I'm sure there's going to be a very hefty market adjustment price that the dealers are going to stick onto the car over the MSRP. So I've already talked to a few dealerships, and they are predicting $30,000 to $50,000 markup on the Z06. Now, taking that into account, even then, if it does achieve these numbers that everyone is kind of talking about and making rumors out of, and having the supercar looks and having that supercar exhaust note, even then, $85,000 plus some options, let's say $100,000 with options, adding $50,000 over the sticker price, just because dealerships will be able to, $150,000 for that car is still a lot cheaper than what you're gonna have to pay Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini for to achieve that same performance. And that in itself is absolutely ridiculous. Chevy has done an absolute just magic trick with the C8 platform, and they're going to continue because we're talking about the Z06. I haven't even mentioned the ZR1. The ZR1 is going to take this all to a whole other level. I cannot wait for this car to come out. I'm already trying to talk to some dealerships to see if I can get on a list somewhere. I have actually found one that can get me on a list with like a $5,000 deposit, but they're only going to be able to sell the car to me at market price, which is the market adjustment price, which is going to be the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over sticker, or whatever it's going to be. But hopefully by the time the Z06 does come out and deliveries start to happen, this crazy car market that we're in, where everything is just super high and inflated, hopefully by then it has all kind of calmed down a little bit at least, and we're not going to have to suffer that much with the price of a Z06. I think we are anyway, and if Chevy does deliver with the crazy performance numbers that I think we're all expecting the Z06 to have, it's going to be a very, very hard car to get unless you're willing to pay for it. That's for sure. And that right there, those are the reasons why I really don't see any need for this car anymore once I hopefully get a Z06, because the Z06 is simply going to be faster than this car on the track in the canyons. It's going to sound better than this car with that flat plane crank V8. And can you imagine what the Z06 is going to sound like with straight pipes, with aftermarket exhaust? It's going to sound incredible. That's what I'm really looking forward to. I mean, already stock what they've been showing on the Nurburgring, the car sounds absolutely amazing. Now this car, it sounds, let me just open the valves. It sounds good, but I had to put downpipes on it to really open it up, make it come alive. Stock, this car doesn't sound that great, honestly, and even with the GTR Pro and the Black Series now, they've really kind of neutered it in a way because of the new emissions laws that are coming into play. With this car with the downpipes, pretty good, but I had to put the downpipe on it, and I mean, this car sounds more like a muscle car, right? Like, it's that German muscle car. And while it sounds awesome, I always will prefer that high-pitched Formula One style exhaust note. And if you're telling me that I can get an American-made supercar at a base price of $85,000 that sounds like a Ferrari and can outperform a Ferrari on track, why would you not get one? There's no reason not to, right? So I'm getting one. And in the meantime, I'm definitely going to enjoy this car as much as I can. I think I've already, done everything I can with this car, to be honest. I've tracked it a bunch of times. I've driven it through the canyons countless times. I've done a good amount of videos with this car, and I am still very, very impressed with this car. But I'm closing in on 11,000 miles on this car in less than a year. I think it's time for the next big thing, and I think the Z06 is going to be the perfect replacement for this car to join alongside the Ferrari 458 Challenge Evo in the garage. You know, I've never owned a Corvette, and I think it is finally time to make that happen. Everything is pointing the C8 Z06 to being Chevrolet's real entry into the supercar world. They're going to be competing straight up with these other supercar manufacturers, and I cannot wait to see what happens. So if you liked what you saw today, please give the video a like, consider subscribing to the channel as well, and I'll see you all in the next one. Deuces!